Stand by. Color. Hot. 4. On. Forward.
Mikey, these is it just
seeing faces of people that we love and many people that we haven't been in the same room for several. We're going to get worked out for our yeah. All right. I think like a lot of you were feeling, let me introduce myself. Sorry, my name is Lisa Lamb. I have the honor of being the current president CEO of the Lewis Center for Educational Research. I am very honored to welcome everybody here. I think as we all came into the circle and onto campus, we're probably feeling that we're not sure what to feel, right? There's a lot of feeling overwhelmed and sad, but also joyful and happy. And so our intent for this evening is for it to truly be a celebration of our beloved founder, Rick Piercy, who impacted each and every single one of us so significantly. I know that we're going to continue to have these waves of sadness, but within each of them, I think really all we need to do is look at our kids and know that his legacy is living for many, many generations to come, and all the success of our alumni. As I look at some of them who walk through, I know that he would just be beaming with pride to see all of us gathered here in his gym, at his school, with his kids, his staff, his friends, loved ones, people that have been here. I'm totally not even reading what I wrote something different. But just people who have been here since the very beginning. And so we did intentionally want this to be a little different than a regular celebration of life. We wanted this to be full of Lewis Center traditions. So you might see a couple of things different. One, our kids are going to introduce every part of tonight's ceremony because Rick is all about our kids, always, every minute of every day, and so that we can celebrate him without including them. And also, many of us are wearing different shirts. So we're probably dressed more like a Friday Spirit Day than we are what would be a traditional ceremony. But that is because each of these shirts tells a story. So as we're sharing stories, maybe just ask us what our shirt is and why it was significant to us and what it represents in the history of the Lewis Center, because each of us are telling a story with our shirts. Let me talk a little bit about how we're going to organize the ceremony so that we know what to expect. So we are going to start off with the presentation of our colors. Everything that we do at AAE, we start off this way. We are very proud of our band and of our ROTC, and there is no other way that we would start off other than celebrating also our nation. We're a very patriotic school. So then we have 5 speakers who we are honored who will represent different parts of Mr. Pierce's life, both his legacy here at school and within the organization, but also his legacy as a man of God. And then after the speakers, we're going to make our way outside, and Mr. Chandler, our strings and music choir teacher, is going to lead us all in this singing together, Amazing Grace. That song was very special to Rick, and so we want to lift our voices up together. And while we do that, you may have also noticed that there's butterflies everywhere. It's not spring fling at AAE, but these butterflies are very symbolic to us. So when we think of Rick, we think of somebody who exemplifies the butterfly effect. So So I don't know if, do we have anybody here from the class of 2014? Do we have any alumni from 2014 here?
No, we do.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So some of you may know that the book, The Butterfly Effect, How Your Life Matters, was very impactful to Rick. And it meant so much to him that he gifted every single one of our graduating seniors from the class of 2014 their very own copy. He wanted to make sure that they had their very own copy. And so the butterfly effect is that idea that a small, seemingly trivial event could ultimately result in something with a great significance and much larger consequence. So for example, it could be a butterfly flapping its wings in India. That tiny change in air pressure could then eventually cause a tornado in, like, let's say, Iowa. So Rick, in his commencement speech that year, told the students that they were each examples, human examples of the butterfly effect. And I know that he believed that down to his very core. He told them that everything, every move they make, every action that they took mattered, not just to them or to their family or their business or their hometown, but it mattered to all of us, and it mattered forever. And so as we were reflecting, and I was reflecting on Rick's legacy, I think that we all can agree there's probably no greater example of the butterfly effect than Rick Piercy himself. Everything he did has resulted in everything that you see here, all the lives that have been impacted, everything that our kids have gone out to do, all of the starts that he's given to all of us, even as adults or family members. So his vision and actions clearly matter. They matter to all of us, and they will matter forever. And because his life matters so much, we really want to try to capture as many of those stories as we can. So we wanted to make that approachable to everybody here. And so we have a few ways in which you could share your stories. So we do have memory cards in the back. So if you just want to write a story, or even your email or phone number or something, we can reach out to you if you have a story to tell. We want to capture that. Also, you could just get a hold of us, send us an email. We also have our contact information, QR codes at the back table, and so we would love to take your stories out. And then finally, after the butterfly release, we invite everybody who is interested to come back in, and you can come up here and share stories of Rick, and we are excited to just share in that celebration of his life together. So that's how it's going to go. And at this time, we're going to officially begin our ceremony. So let's, at this time, please turn and rise your attention to AAE's Distinguished Space Force Junior ROTC under the direction of Colonel George Armstrong and Master Sergeant Kyle, as they proudly present our nation's colors, which will be followed by the national anthem performed by our AAE Knights Band under the direction of Ms. Brianna Anderson, and the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be recited by U.S. Center Ambassador Natalie Ritter. At this time, please remove your hats and remain standing until the color guard exits.
Stand by. Colors. Stand hut. Forward. Arms. Forward. March. Color guard. Hold. Color guard. Hold out. Color guard.
You may be seated. Make sure I'm working. Okay. That's pretty amazing, right? I know when we petitioned to become one of the first Space Force units, that also wouldn't have happened without Rick. And so, just because he retired, he didn't stop making firsts. So at this time, we're going to begin inviting speakers up to the podium. So first, I would like to introduce Pastor Pete Uwaro from Community Church at Just Ranch. Pastor Uwaro will be speaking on Rick's faith journey. Which, if you've ever had a conversation with Rick about his success, especially about the leader, of the Lewis Center, you know he always gave credit to our Lord and Savior, and so we're very honored that one of his pastors is here to speak, and also wearing one of Rick's cross-country shirts.
I'm speaking, yes, but I want you all to know that these are Rick's words, and they were written relatively recently. These were Rick's words written this year. I can't remember a time when I did not know that I had a Heavenly Father who loved me. As a young boy, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents in Pomona. My grandmother in particular had a very strong faith. One of my favorite stories from my time with them had to do with me climbing a tree. They had a very large sycamore trees in their backyard, and I liked to climb way up in the tree where I could be hidden from the ground and where I could see the tops of the houses. One day I slipped and fell all the way down until I was caught in the lowest branches of the tree. I ran into the house uninjured and told my grandmother, "I was caught in the arms of the Lord." Grandma's father was a preacher in the Methodist Church in Utopia, Texas. Her grandfather, my great-grandfather, Orson F. Fisher, was a circuit rider preacher, and I've been told that he had such a strong preaching voice that he could be heard clearly from 2 miles away. So my faith roots run deep. I returned to my Texas roots as a teenager when I traveled back to Texas with my grandmother for several summers for the annual family reunion by the Sabino River. When attending their little Methodist church, I went forward during an altar call, and as I was kneeling in front, I felt a strong hand on my shoulder, and it was Henry, my grandma's cousin. He was a tall, strong, godly man that I had always looked up to. In junior high, I began attending the Assembly of God Church in Victorville and the Christ Ambassadors Youth Group. Paul Walterman was the leader of the youth group at the time, and he became a real mentor in my life. Fast forward about 8 years. Linda and I were married, and we were living back in Napa Valley with our daughters, Carrie and Mandy. Both of us had attended Church of the Valley a few times as children. In fact, I once attended with my grandmother, and I sat next to Roy Rogers, and he held the hymnal for me. I remember thinking, this was one of my heroes, and here he was in church. We returned to Church of the Valley as a family, and it was our home for many years. Our pastor and his wife, Bill and Mary Ellen Hanson, were mentors to us both in church and out, and their lives have always modeled their faith to us. We have been blessed to call them friends. I can't tell a faith journey without including how the hand of God was part of the whole Lewis Center experience. There were so many occasions where I know God directly intervened in helping us as we designed and built the school. We saw miracles that I am convinced were directly from God. Throughout this challenging year dealing with my cancer, I am saddened by the years that I will not have to be with my precious family. But never once have I doubted the goodness, the love, and the sovereignty of God. He has walked every step of this journey with us, and I now find myself looking forward to what He has next for me. I know heaven is going to be beyond my imagination, and I have a very good imagination.
I think in our ceremony, maybe you can clap because those were pretty amazing words. And funny, right? And we're about to laugh today too because I don't think you can talk about Rick and not have laughter involved as well. I'm fully expecting, just so you know, some things to happen at any time. Fire alarm may go off, we don't know what's going to happen, but it could happen. Okay, so thank you so much for those sharing your own words with us. We really appreciate that. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Bill Quimby. Mr. Quimby was a long-time Apple Valley Unified School District principal, and specifically Rick's principal. Sure, I know there are many, many stories to tell about that. But he also supported Rick in starting the Young Astronauts program, which led to the Apple Valley Science and Tech Center, and AAE, and Norton Science and Language Academy, and Gabbard, and everything that the Lewis Center has become. So while Bill's making his way up, Lynn and I were talking, and I just want to make sure that Bill is here representing a group of very staunch early supporters of Rick's vision and of the Lewis Center. There are some of those who have gone before Rick and who are no longer here with us, but we did want to just mention those who were very also instrumental in those beginning days. So those include Leo DeTay, Dr. Ed Johnston, Bud Biggs, Dr. Mike Klein, Congressman Jerry Lewis, and Bill knows all of them well, I know. So also, just before Bill begins his speech, I promise I'm going to shush. But if anybody was one of those early supporters who is here with us today from the late 80s, early 90s, could you please stand? I knew that I wouldn't get you all, but I know I saw you walking in. If you're one of those early visionary supporters, stand. Don't be embarrassed. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here today to tell you about Mahogany Mesa Elementary School and a guy called Rick Piercy. He's an honorable, very honorable person who I really respect him. And I want to tell you a little bit about him. He came to Mahogany Mesa Elementary after I had a teacher interview with him. And I spoke with him about his job and so on. When he walked through the door, though, he had his ranger outfit on. He was Ranger Rick. He worked at the Silverwood Park up there, and he was very proud of all of the things that he was able to do as a ranger up there, working with people up there. Well, he convinced me in short order that he should be a teacher at our school, and I recommended that to the board and to the principal or the superintendent that he be hired to be a teacher at Mojave Mesa. So I wanted to let you know that that was probably one of my best decisions I ever made as a principal, was getting him on at our staff. Rick was a very, very special person, and he had some awesome qualities. He could form a vision of what he wanted to happen, especially in education, and he could see it clearly. I know he could. And he had the ability to persevere through anything and through everything, and he never quit. He finished all of his projects. And he had the character and the personality to get people to join him. They believed what he had to say, they donated, they worked with him, and they assisted him in reaching the goals that he had set for himself and for our community. His greatest gift, however, was a terrific sense of humor. He was a funny guy. He did a lot of funny things. One of them that I can tell you about was in regards to myself. And I was out on the Mojave Mesa schoolyard out there, and I got a call from the office that the substitute teacher for Mr. Piercy wanted to see me. So I went over to the office and was wondering what was going on, and this lady was sitting there in my office in a chair, and I went in And she started rattling off a whole bunch of stuff about Mr. Piercy's class and about what she was going to do. And after about 3 or 4 minutes of this, I realized that I was talking to Rick Piercy. He had a wig on, and he looked just like a lady substitute. You know, he was there. I couldn't believe it. But the staff all had a great laugh, and the teachers all had a great laugh. And that was one of many laughs that Rick set up for us. Rick loved science, and he saw a great need to enhance the lessons that were taught in our classrooms from the science textbooks and so on. Several teachers had talked to him and asked him to, he was a kindergarten teacher, so he had the afternoons where he was doing preparation. But he was so committed that he decided that he would talk to teachers about coming to their room and teaching science lessons, hands-on, fun-type science lessons. Teachers thought that was a great idea. And they actually decided that this was probably one of the greatest things that we had been doing there at Mojave Mesa, because it facilitated our teachers' interest in working together and to improve student interest and to improve student learning. That was very, very important. That made me as a very happy principal to get the teachers all working together like that. And it was because of Rick's ideas. Rick started a young astronauts program there at Mojave Mesa also. And that increased his interest in in building a science center. Some place where the teachers could come and enjoy him teaching the lesson instead of him going to their classrooms. They could come to him and he had all these materials. So that was developed there, and he started thinking, boy, I sure want to have that building out there. I sure would like to do that. And so to do that, we had to go visit Mr. Conrad over at the district office. Rick and I would go over and we spent a couple of trips going over there talking to Ed, and Rick was trying to convince him about how important this would be to our community. Ed finally agreed and okayed that that Mojave Mesa would have the Sandia principle. That's why I keep saying it. Mr. Conrad finally gave us permission. We did have some requirements, but off we went. And now Rick was really going to work. He set out to talk to the community, people in the community, business people in the community, everybody he could talk to about building the science center, he did. And he got a hold of the architects, builders, people who would donate money, and other people who would donate their efforts, their work. And they all contributed to Rick's project of building the science center. One day, I even saw him. I was looking out my principal window there, and I saw Rick out there walking with somebody, and I looked real carefully, and there he was, Congressman Jerry Lewis. Rick had Washington, D.C. congressman coming over here to our school. And Jerry and Rick were, as people would say in the movie business, with peas and carrots. If you've ever heard of that one with Tom Hanks. But anyway, they were walking around, and he was telling Jerry all about our school. I just kept thinking, wow, that's fantastic. You could get somebody that important to come over. And because of that, we have the Jerry Lewis Science Center. But Rick had also acquired a jet plane, flight simulator, telescope, and all of the building materials, equipment, supplies, and hours of work donated by this community. We live in a fantastic community. They built the Science Center. You all built the Science Center. And so then the Science Center was born, and Rick's vision of Science Center was in actuality. And he set his focus now on his next project. That vision is somewhere else now. And he had a vision of a charter school and a place called AAE. I want you to know that Rick Piercy was one of the most motivated, industrious, creative, and successful teachers that I had the pleasure to work with in the District of Apple Valley for 32 and a half years. He was one of the best. And I want to thank Rick for all of his work, and I want to thank Linda for being there with him all the way. Thank you, Linda. God bless you.
It's exciting for me to see too that Science Center is.
Close the microphone.
That's all right. We need to skip to Robert. He's going to take it next. That Science Center is still going very strong. I believe that we're in our 6th season of the ABCI, Apple Valley Center for Innovation, and it continues to be a very strong partnership with Apple Valley Unified and something that serves all of our students throughout the entire community. And so that center that you all built as a community still serves all of our kids. And so that vision is alive and thriving. Thank you so much, Bill. At this time, I am going to bring up Mr. Robert Lovingood. Robert has worn many hats in our high desert, as you all know, but my favorite are two. One, a very long time Lewis Center board member and also AAE parent of 3 amazing kids who I love and adore. But when we were thinking about somebody who could really speak on behalf of the Lewis Center, Robert definitely came up because he saw not only the beginning and was there in those early years, but also seeing AAE thrive and Norton also being a dream and thriving. And Robert helped us where we are today with Norton. So Robert for sharing this part of the legacy.
Good evening. How's everyone? I want to tell you, Teresa sent me this, so you're in for a talk. You're going to be here for a while. We've got 28 pages of accomplishments. Chris, how are you again? Peter Caldwell, Pat, Charlie. It's great to see you. Folks, I'm not going to read this. I'm going to kind of do as Lisa did. I'm going to talk from the heart. When we began as a board, Rick went and solicited individuals in the community, and Linda will tell you what we were known for is once a year we gathered, we decorated Christmas trees, and in turn we auctioned them off to each other over dinner. So if you'd spend $100 on the tree, but you'd spend $1,000 buying it back. And that went into the nonprofit. And it was lots of fun. And then Rick just gathered us. He gathered so many in the community, and he created such a great board. I got invited by a gentleman by the name of Tom Burka, who was tied at the table, John Wilkins, Rancho Motors, and there was just a collection. And he brought us in to really have a sounding board, and he sought out individuals that were from the private sector. He wanted to know what made things tick. He wanted to know what people in the industry wanted to see in students. And really we went about that. And I think sometimes he probably regretted some of us. I would say that some of us became a little overbearing. I think wonderful look and say. And he came home and said, oh, no, not at all. But at the end, folks, it was really done on behalf of this institution. And when I look around and I think that we all come at some point to pass, when you talk about a legacy, it can't be understated. As Lisa mentioned, my children, thousands and thousands of other children have benefited from his dream, his vision, and what he created. We're the benefit today, and we will have this benefit for decades to come. Children walk through here in years and may not recognize the name, but in the end, During that time, Rick created a great board. Lisa, Rick Wolf, I see David today, I see other board members, I see other staff. Colonel Armstrong created a world-class program. They had the support of the Apple Valley School District. I don't think many of those would today, other districts, have had the support. Dan Leary was an anchor for that, and he kept us in the situation because it's often tedious. Lisa will share going into Norton. You know, we started Norton towards the end. Very different environment, community, really required leadership and a lot of time. And I can get everybody to raise their hand. I'm just glad it wasn't in the last 5 years they had to commute down there. Because it was always up at 6, down to meetings, working with the county, working for the city. So it's just a collective of people. And I'm going to finish with just a couple words. Really lend to you, Rick's ankle. And the stories of your early marriage and his success, he often shared with us it was you. He talked about Ventura, talked about there, he talked about coming back and coming home. I looked at me and Carrie and the grandkids, we're blessed, but we've all been blessed with Rick. And when I said as we walk away today, and knowing that really for the future to come, we can recognize Rick. So Lisa, thank you so much for having me come out. And everyone, thanks again, and Linda, thoughts and prayers to you.
And now it's time for our last and definitely not last speaker. It is, like I said, we are here also to celebrate Rick's legacy as a man of faith, and he was a great model to all of the, oh no, not me yet. No, not me yet. I'm coming right here. This is where I'm coming. Sorry, Art. Okay, I'm coming here. All right. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Archbishop, none other than Archbishop, all the ambassadors' favorite. Art, we know, is one of our town councilmen, former Apple Valley Fire Chief, and Art has always been, you can start coming on up, I'm going to talk about you for a second, but like when we look back at old footage and whatnot, Art has always been there supporting Rick's vision, supporting the Lewis Center, being the amazing cheerleader of the Ambassadors Group, which is a group that Rick started, I think, that keeps us grounded. They are the example of everything that we work towards, and Art has always supported them. So we are really grateful that Art said yes to talking a little bit about Rick's impact in the community and in the fire department.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Before I start with my speech to my wife, help me out. I almost got promoted to pastor. I was so, Peter, I was going to come next Sunday and I was going to speak. Really, let me tell you, that's one of the best mistakes I've ever had. Before I start with my words, I just wanted to, I didn't see anybody. Lisa had sent out a memo that said if you have an old AE t-shirt or something, please wear it. Well, I have a lot of t-shirts over the years on my fire explorer things and everything. So I started going through my t-shirts. And darn, see, I didn't say damn, I'm getting ready for the church. Darn if I couldn't find my AE t-shirt. So what it's all about is, many years ago, and there happened to be a picture in the back of the room, we had a fire in the river bottom. And it was actually quite a fire, and there was a lot of thought in Rick's mind. Rick is standing at the very edge of the fire, directing everything. Meanwhile, the fire chief and myself are trying to actually direct the firefighters and everybody that's really supposed to be putting out the fire. Rick calls me over and says, Art, Rick was the coach for the cross-country team. If you don't know Rick, running was one of his passions. And he says, Rick, I says, Art, the fire is in the area where the cross-country team runs through. He called it the forest, but we called it the flood control channel. And I said, Rick, I have to be honest with you. From where I had one of my division chiefs was up in the helicopter, and I asked him, I said, Mike, can you see where it is? He goes, it's gone. It's burnt over. So I go to Rick, who's actually still directing everything. And I should mention to you at this point, Rick Piercy was known for a lot of different things, but if you didn't know it, he happened to be the president of my fire board. So, you know, here I am trying to do my thing as fire chief while my president, my boss, is redirecting me. Anyway, I'm sorry, sir, but the trail's gone. I mean, everything back there is gone. So we're wrapping up, we're cleaning up, and it's been an extremely long night. The young people were so grateful. They were bringing us food and bringing us water and helping all the firefighters. Just about, we're getting ready to wrap up, it's starting to get dark. And Rick comes over and says, Art, get your hand crew and build me a new trail for my cross-country team. And what am I going to say? I mean, it was really difficult to say no. So for the members of the cross-country team, that actually is a fire trail, and I will take that to my death. I also want to mention both of my grandsons went here. Grandson number 1 was Jacob, was honored to be tutored by Mr. O, who was a drama coach. He now works in management, universal student, doing exactly what his degree was. My other one was Joey, was in the radio club, and it was CB's then. It was a long time ago. And some of us still remember CB radios. And he actually went into electronics and works right here in Apple Valley for Apple Valley Communications. So that's just, our family has been involved. I've been involved with Rick, and very, very blessed for to have call Linda a friend for my wife and I for many, many years. Anyway, good evening. It's my honor to be able to be here before just so many of you, just some of Rick's very many friends, just a few of you. But there's so many of you out here that were touched by Rick's life. Everyone should have heroes. For so many of these days, it seems that it's invariable that sports stars are their heroes, celebrities are their heroes. But here in Apple Valley, we have our own hometown hero. I have heroes that I've never met. One of them happens to be one of our founding fathers. His name was Thomas Paine, who wrote Common Sense in 1776, which helped inspire the birth of this great nation. As I'm sure you can tell, Rick and I love to talk about politics and our national history. I'm sure as the teacher in Rick, because he would teach me that would talk about the history of this great nation. But it was probably the student in me that absolutely loved to listen to him. There was something the way, and I don't want to say he was a storyteller, but he was. I mean, he could tell a story. He could take something like the Revolutionary War, which is very famous and everything, but he made it so interesting. Like I said, at that point, I just became a student. Matter of fact, Rick served on our own town's historical committee, where he worked to make sure that the members of our community knew all about the history of our town that they call home here in Apple Valley. I remember when Rick had a dream to build the campus that we're in today. After what I'm sure was much prayer, because him and Linda would pray a lot about all his dreams and visions, much prayers and much thought, he started with a phone call to one of his many friends that were here in town, and that was Richard Cambridge, who was a long-time Apple Valley contractor. It seemed like Rick always had a dream to make this school bigger and better. And I don't remember a time that Rick didn't have an idea that he wanted to improve something, or a planning commission meeting, or a council meeting that he would come to. That dream will continue with the help of Rick's friends and the people that knew and believed in his dream and his vision about education. He was way ahead of his time, and I'm so glad you talked about that, Bill, because he really, I can imagine that interview with him, and he was so proud of being a state ranger.
about a vision about education. Rick and Linda had a very strong faith in the Lord. They were both always involved with their church family. And I remember when I recently visited Rick, I sat down with Rick in the living room. Linda was moving around. I was with a good friend of mine, Rita, who was one of my fire inspectors in Apple Valley. I could see Rick was really deep in thought. And of course, that would be expected. So I asked him, Rick, what are you thinking about? And then there was that Rick pause. Whenever you talk to Rick, there was that Rick pause. And after him being my boss for so many years, I got really used to the Rick pause. He turned to me and said that he was just wondering who would be the first to greet him when he got to heaven. That was Rick. Actually, he couldn't decide it was going to be his family members or his dog. Rick lived with the thought that he would dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That was always his faith, always his belief, and that should be all of our faith and all of our belief. But what I think we talked about the most was his family. Linda, his wife, his partner, his best friend, and the girls Carrie and Mandy, and their families. Rick and Linda were truly blessed with being able to travel. They got this, when they retired, they got this really cool truck, they got this really cool trailer. We're on the road, we're going to Olympia, we're going to somewhere back east where the family's moving to, and it was really cool. And they were going to see their kids and their grandkids, which they had absolutely so much love for. There is so much more I would like to say about Rick, but there's so many other people who want to speak. But I was asked by Lisa to talk a little about Rick's involvement with the town of Apple Valley. So we're very honored to have our mayor, Scott Nassif, here today, and we asked Scott to come up and share some of his memories quickly about Rick and Rick's involvement with the town of Apple Valley. Scott?
Thank you, Art. And from here on out, we'll be known as Pastor Bishop at the council meetings. You have been up the priest show several times, so it's very fitting. So appreciate you being here. And I want to thank everyone for being here. And our council's here as well. Mayor Pro Tem Larry Cusack, Councilmember Terry Leon, and Councilmember Kurt Emmett. They're all here and all worked with Rick in several ways. Rick was never afraid to work with us as politicians and people in the community. And I've worked several years with Rick on several projects. The Desert Knolls Wash, which we're still working on. I worked with our supervisor too on that. We're still working on our bureaucracy. But when it gets to the town of Apple Valley, we did get the street signal in on Apple Valley Road and a few other projects that we've always worked on. So I always appreciated that. And want to remind everybody that the legacy that Rick leaves, not only at the educational community, but in this town of Apple Valley will live on forever. He had really loved Apple Valley, and he would always talk to people how he was born here before St. Mary's was even established or built, and was part of the community ever since. And someone in his position could have retired and left this community, but he didn't. He stayed here, worked on the fire district, was part of the district committee. As Art said, he worked with all of us on the different projects and things to get done, and worked very diligently. And the one thing that I always loved, Art mentioned a little bit, was you never had to wonder what Rick was thinking. If you asked for his opinion, he will give it to you, and he gave you an honest opinion. But he also listened to your opinion. That doesn't always happen with everybody. He was one that I always used to say would listen to understand, not just listen to respond. And that's very important. And I tell kids I talk to today, listen to everybody else. Listen to their opinion. You can have your opinion, but listen to what everybody else has to say and educate yourself on the issue. And Rick did that, and talked to other community leaders about that, talked to kids about that, and parents about that. And I think that's very important. He loved this community. He loved everybody here, and that was important. And to him, and important to us. And like I said, that will live on forever. And we appreciated everything he did and worked with him. Never had a We weren't afraid to call each other and ask what's going on. Something was happening, we'd ask. Yeah, he wasn't afraid to call any one of us at any point in time and let us know if there was an issue that needed to be worked out, or a project that needed to be worked on, or a problem that needed to be solved. And we were there to help him, and we appreciated that. But again, thank you all for being here, and just want to let you know his name will live on in this community forever, and we appreciate everything he's done for us. So I think I'll turn it back to Lisa.
At this time, I'll just welcome up the actual pastor. I promoted Art, you're welcome.
Bill, I have been shown the picture of Rick dressed as that substitute. That was disturbing. And hilarious at the same time. Yeah, really. Hey, it's a great pleasure for me to be here. Rick's friendship, his service to our church and his Lord has just been nothing but a blessing. And so I just want to briefly share a couple of things on behalf of Linda and the family. Some of you may have heard of the name Hudson Taylor. He was a famous missionary to China many, many years ago. And Hudson Taylor once said that there are 3 stages to every great work of God. First, it is impossible. Then it becomes difficult. Then it's done. Most of you know the story. Many of you know the story of this place and how it got started. But I'll bet you a lot of you didn't know that school was actually a struggle for Rick in the early days. He was struggling to find out that one size doesn't always fit all. He had to repeat the 4th grade. He never read a book for pleasure until college. But he found a place in high school where he was able to shine, running. And while he ran cross country, he found about tenacity and perseverance. 2 qualities that would serve him very, very well the rest of his life and the things that God would call him to do. In service to his church family and to his community, he loved both a great deal. The Lewis Center began as a dream. Others believed in that dream. They bought into it. And what started seemed impossible. Then it became difficult. And then one day it was done. In this crowd, I imagine there's a number of you that were part of all stages of that. The impossible stage, the difficult stage. And that's not done. It's continuing. This gift, this vision continues to be a beacon and a wonderful part of this community, and it's something that we will always be thankful for. Rick and Linda have a niece, Leslie, who is living in Japan right now. Her husband's in the Navy, and he's stationed over there. And in one of her last phone conversations with Rick, she told him that she had a dream to climb Mount Fuji. Earlier this week, she honored him by placing a taping, if you will, affixing a picture of Rick and his favorite Bible verse to her back, and off she went. She shared her story with many others that she came across on the trail. Her dream was to make this climb. It seemed impossible at first. She continued as it became difficult, and she said the final 2 miles were absolutely steep, hard, and very, very scary. But at 5:15 p.m. on Tuesday, after climbing for 11 and a half hours up the mountain, the impossible was done. In the weeks prior to Rick's passing, Rick and Linda talked a lot about funding a scholarship in his name. The High Desert Partnership and Academic Excellence Foundation has begun collecting donations which will be used to help fund this scholarship. But the focus of this scholarship will not be grades per se, or athletic success, or some of the more usual qualifications. Rather, this will be awarded to a student who has exemplified perseverance and tenacity. The student has learned the value of continuing to strive towards the impossible. Linda and the family are committed to honoring a student in this way, in a scholarship for named after Rick. You have a building right over here that bears Rick's name on it.
and that's altogether appropriate. I happen to know that it was a great honor to him that meant the world. But here's what you need to know. That was never what Rick was about. He loved it, and it was wonderful, but he was never about. Here's what he was about. Students. 100% for students. And if he was here tonight, he would want you to know that he believes in you. He believes each and every one of you are capable of great things. He will want you to know that things that are worth having are worth working hard for, with perseverance and tenacity. And he would want you to take advantage of all the wonderful things that have been put in place here to give you a great start, a wonderful foundation to figure out what your dreams are and what you want to be passionate about. Some of them may seem impossible, but as you keep after it and you have people that come alongside and help you, one day they'll just be difficult. And then one day, students, it might just be done. We are all very grateful for all of the wonderful gifts of friendship and so many other things from our wonderful friend, Rick Piercy. Thank you very much.
Okay, at this time, we're going to wrap up. I think it's clear as I look at every face here, Rick made a huge impact, and that impact is going to live on in each of us. I know as I look at it, our current board, our current staff from both of our schools, several of our Morton staff came up, of many AAE staff, Lewis Center staff, Gabbard teachers. We are all committed to continuing the work of this organization. We are very passionate. We are honored to be here and continuing this work. So come and continue to support us. Continue to join us as we continue to dream and love on our students and guide them each and every day. At this time, we're going to make our way out into the circle. The ambassadors will be there to pass out the lyrics. We're going to do all 5 stanzas. All 7 stanzas. I am not getting any of my pastor things. Mr. Chandler is also a pastor. I'm getting all my pastor things wrong today. But we're doing all 7 stanzas, and I know most of us know the lyrics by heart to the first and the last, but we're going to sing them all together, and we're going to all lift our voices up in song. So let's make our way out, also before the butterflies go to sleep at night, because they need daylight. So let's kind of quickly make our way out there. We're going to sing together. We're going to release the butterflies in honor of Rick, and then we'll return